So what's the most powerful thing your wardrobe has done for you?
Hmm. The most powerful thing my wardrobe has done for me is to help me express confidence when I need it the most. What I realized is that my wardrobe doesn't reflect my style, it actually empowers my presence.
Mm,
I'm at work or I'm at home or I'm going out, going to the grocery store, it makes me feel how I want to feel for that day.
okay. Year. We had a discovery call, and first of all, you were very modest about who you are and what you do. And I didn't learn about who you were until a little after the fact. I Googled you and found out that you are the Captain Gabrielle Harding. And, I previously asked you, I was like, well, you had been thinking about going or hiring a personal stylist. And when we chatted, I was trying to get a sense of like what was the thing that made you decide to like pull the trigger and say like now is the time I'm going to work with a personal stylist. And I don't know if you remember what you told me, but you were very modest and you were like, "Oh, I'm getting more visibility at work." You didn't tell me what you did or anything like that. And so at that point, it was around a year ago, and you had just gotten some press in the media about a flight that you had taken. So tell me a little bit about that and what made you say, okay, well, now's the time that I really want to switch things up and focus a little more on my personal style.
Sure. So, what I probably didn't tell you was what really, really maybe go and get a personal or a personal stylist was a picture that I saw of me from behind.
Oh,
You
okay.
know, as time goes on, you're one size and you gradually, sometimes we get a little bit bigger and we don't notice how big we're getting. And even when we look at ourselves in the mirror, we're so used to seeing ourselves, we don't realize what we look like until we see a picture.
Hmm.
And it was the picture was taken from behind and kind of like down. And I was like, who is that? And then I realized that that butt belonged to me. I was like, oh, I really need to, one, probably lose some weight. And two, I did not like how my clothes were fitting.
Okay.
So, one of the things I do not like to do, believe it or not, is shop. I've
Hmm.
never liked shopping. But if I do have to shop for clothes, I like to go in, see what it is that I like, try it
Hmm.
on, and then leave. Well, there are a lot of things that I was trying on that were not dresses because a lot of times dresses cover up a lot of things that are going on below the waist in
Hmm.
pants or fitted items. And I did not like that I couldn't get into them because they were cut, number one, not for curvy women, and two,
Hmm.
for women who were a lot smaller. So there, I just couldn't find what I was looking for.
Hmm.
And to your point, I was getting more visibility at work. I wear a uniform. So really, it doesn't matter when I'm at work, but I was doing programs outside of work, which going to schools and talking to people. And a lot of times I
Hmm.
wasn't wearing my uniform.
Hmm.
And I wanted to be able to project the style that I wanted to project that I couldn't get just by ordering clothes or walking into a mall.
Okay, well, thank you, thank you, thank you for that. So, this is Captain Gabrielle Harding, and we're about to jump into a really interesting conversation, of course, about style and of course, about life. So, welcome to the Secrets of Stylish Women, everyone. Welcome to the Secrets of Stylish Women, a podcast that focuses on women of impact. We talk about style, we talk about life, we share secrets. And today I have an amazing guest and client, Captain Gabrielle Harding. And Captain Harding is with United Airlines. I want to get into your history, your background. Like I mentioned earlier, I didn't know who you were when I first spoke to you on the phone. And then as we solidified the engagement, I was like, let me see if I can find anything about, this client. And I Googled you and I found out that you were recently in the media and that you are a pilot. And I found that to be very impressive because, first of all, I'm sure you know the numbers better than I do, but there's a very small percentage of women who are in aviation. Black women, I'm sure the number is even more small. And, flying, like, as we started working together, you kept reiterating how much you love flying, which is so bizarre to me. What do you like about it? Like, how did you get into it? And share your story.
Okay, so the first part I'll talk about is how I got into it, and then I'll tell you why I like it. Um, I didn't always want to be a pilot. I originally wanted to be a doctor. At an
Hmm.
early age, I realized I did not like blood or needles. So being a doctor was out. And then, of course, the things that we saw the most, a lawyer, architect was one because I like to draw. And it
Hmm.
wasn't until I was 15. Actually, let me go back a little bit earlier than that. When I was 11 and 12, I got to go to Space Camp and Space Academy in Huntsville, Alabama, with my local Girl Scout troop in southeastern Michigan.
Okay.
When I did those programs, and this was, I'm dating myself here, this was in the late 80s, right? In late 80s, early 90s. So NASA and space was a huge thing. So to be able to go there was a great opportunity. So then I wanted to become an astronaut slash an aeronautical engineer.
Mm.
So that stuck with me until I was a junior in high school. And at that time, they gave us a survey to try to match students with someone in their career field. And the closest I could get to aeronautical engineering was aviation. So I just marked the box aviation. And a couple of weeks later, my mom got a call from a program that we found out was actually run by the local chapter of the Detroit Tuskegee Airmen in conjunction with the Boy Scouts. And they would take inner city kids and teach them how to fly. So they had a
Mm.
program, they give them ground school and then take them up in a small airplane. So I went through the ground school part, which just talks about all the technical parts of flying airplanes and weather, all the things I was not interested in. And it wasn't, and by the way, I think I was one of very few females in the class. But
Mhm.
by the time I got an opportunity to go up in a small airplane, that's when I was hooked because I had only gone on the airplane once when I was 8 from Detroit to Memphis and
Mhm.
back. So it never really was on my radar. But when I got to see the city that I love from a bird's eye view, I remember turning around and I looked at the guy and said, I know what I want to do. I want to be a pilot because I don't
Wow.
want to work for a living. Like, if this is what they do, this is awesome. Which leads me to the point of why I love flying. So I used to fly international, which was always going to Europe or Asia, Africa. And now it's mostly domestic, but I also go to the Caribbean,
Mhm.
Central America, South America. It is always like a vacation. So no matter where I end up on an overnight, one, I'm getting paid to be on that overnight, and two, someone's paying for my hotel. So you can't get any better than that. And when I was flying international, some days I wake up in Rome. I can be over in Paris. That was one of my favorite places. Now I might wake up, I'm in Punta Cana or
Mhm.
Bogota, Colombia. It
Mhm.
it's just an awesome job in getting to see different cultures and how people live and how
Mhm.
yet we always look at our differences, but really we are a lot alike. And when you start flying airplanes, you realize that the world is really a small place.
Mm. Wow, that's interesting. So, what's one of your favorite destinations?
Paris was one of my
Oh, you
favorites.
just did say that,
I
yeah.
like Rome. I like Europe, but for the first time, I got to go to Africa. So there are a couple of places on my list that I still would like to go, Ghana being one
Mhm.
of them. I got
Okay.
to go to South Africa, so Johannesburg and Cape Town, when I was flying the 787. The first time we flew over the African continent, because we went down the ocean and then kind of made a hard left to go east. I am looking at this continent that, first of all, is massive,
Mhm.
massive. Like, the size of it is not depicted in the manner in which it should be when we look at our maps.
Right.
Like, I not only see desert, but I also see greenery and trees. And since I was little, they always told us that Africa was
Oh,
desolate. And
yeah.
we're flying in, and I'm like, oh my, I'm taking pictures. And I'm like, this is so awesome.
Did you feel like you were flying into Wakanda?
No, I did not. I don't know. Maybe when I go to Ghana, I might.
Okay.
It did feel like that. And yeah, that movie was out by the time I had gone. But what I really liked was I felt like people were very welcoming. The
Hmm.
people who were native
Mhm.
to South Africa, it was always like a welcome home. And I got the opportunity to do safaris, and one of the best moments of my life was walking with the lions.
Walking with the lion?
With the lions. Now, you know us. We're like, I'm not walking with lions. But I flew with this captain who never did anything. He was a slam clicker. We call
What's that?
slam like people go into the hotel room and they never come out.
Oh, okay.
So we're flying together one day, and he pulls out these pictures of when he walked with the lions. So I said, if you can walk with the lions, I can walk with the lions. And
Okay.
the next time I went with some flight attendants and a couple of the other pilots. And it is an awesome opportunity. They bring out two lions. Of course, you have guides, and there are certain things that you can and cannot do. One, don't touch the lions. Two,
I don't have
don't
to
get
tell
in
you that.
front of the lions. Right. Because if you stay a certain distance behind them, they feel as if you're in their pride. So if you get too far back, now you're not part of the pride and you become prey. So then they also give us this stick, which is funny. Like this stick is like this long. And apparently you're supposed to hold the stick out if the lion comes to you. I'm like, that stick is not going to do anything. And then the guy finally tells me it's kind of like your distance of where you need to be with the lion. So if you hold out,
Okay.
if
I
you're
see.
closer than that stick,
They
it's
may
probably not
consider that
good.
a challenge.
And what I did, I stayed with the guides. Like I hung out with the guides because I figure maybe they'll eat him first if they did voluntarily. But it was an awesome experience. They even took video. They let each person, like, you get a chance to just walk with them because they take this path every day and they
Hmm.
know where to go, where they're supposed to climb up in the tree. They climb up, one climbs up in the tree, the other's kind of off on the side, and then you take a picture in front. You have to have great faith in not only the guides, but also these lions because at any moment, but it was so amazing to see how powerful they are. And the weirdest thing was one of the lions, and I remember his name was Milo. So they bring out an older lion and a younger lion because the younger lion tends not to listen to the guides, but the younger one will listen to the older lion.
Ah,
At some
okay.
point, the younger one like trots off, and the guy goes, Milo, sit. This lion turns around and sits, and he's looking at him like, what next? Almost like a dog, like when you train a dog,
Wow.
but you're looking at this massive cat and his eyes are so beautiful and he's just looking like, what next? He was like, call, I can't even remember the other one, but he was like, call whatever back. So Milo turns around and he does a roar. It's not very loud, not as loud, but it was enough roar. You're like, wow. The other one stops. He turns around, comes back, and sits next to Milo. I
That's
was
mind
like,
blowing.
yes, yes. It was such a great experience. And anyone, if you ever get the opportunity, I would say do it. Just follow the guides. But
Well, I'm not doing that. I don't have that kind of courage. I'll admire them from afar. Yeah. Okay, so wow, so now I'm even more impressed. So I need to get back to this flying stuff though. Like,
sure.
so obviously you're not afraid of heights, right?
So that's another story. Yes, Lauren, I am actually afraid of heights. Being in
Okay.
the airplane is totally different. Even my first time going up in a small airplane when I was doing the discovery flight at the program, my door opened up. And the door opened up, I looked out, closed the door. That did not faze me. But if I have to stand at the edge of a building and look down, I cannot do that, even if
Okay.
it's like a glass rail. And I had a time when I was in Cologne and I was walking up a staircase from one level like to the next level outside, but the staircase was graded.
Hmm.
And halfway, I could look down and I saw ground. I'm still looking halfway up. I was at the point where the person I was with, they actually had to carry me up the rest of the way because I crouched down and I was like, I can't go any further.
Wow.
So
Oh my goodness.
I don't know. I'd always tell people maybe I have a fear of falling.
Hmm.
I don't know, but it's definitely different when I'm in an airplane.
Okay, so I would imagine, like I really can't imagine, so I can only imagine that there's a sense of like freedom or something like that when you're up in the sky like that and knowing that you have control of this aircraft. Like I don't know, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but how does that feel?
Well, you do have control when you're up in the front, but you also have a great view. Like the view in the flight deck is definitely different than being in the back and just looking out of a window at one side.
I
Like
keep my windows closed.
you really don't like flying, huh, Lauren?
Not really. Mm-mm.
I see some of the most amazing sunsets, sunrises. You're flying over areas like there's an arrival. I'm based in Newark, New Jersey, that comes into Newark when you're coming from the south, like Florida, the Carolinas, and I actually fly over my house. So depending on what
Mm.
side of the airplane I'm sitting on, like if I'm sitting on the right side, I can pinpoint. I'm like, there it is, right
That
there.
is too funny.
There's a neighborhood. So it's that, and just the other day we're flying over the Rockies, and just looking at it from it, I can't even explain. So yes,
Mm.
it's being able to be in control, but even when I'm in the back, I know my peers are well trained,
Hmm.
and I have no problems being back there. I just don't like the view when I'm stuck looking out of a
Yeah.
window.
Yeah, I'm sure it's quite different. So let me ask you a question. I've heard some stuff in the in news recently about things at Newark Airport and shortages of staff and stuff like that due to some of the things that are going on. Does that change anything for you?
It doesn't change anything for me, except it might be longer to get into Newark and longer to get out of Newark. So the
Okay.
construction that they have now was planned construction,
Hmm.
and Newark usually uses one runway to take off and one runway to land, going in the same direction. Well, one of those runways is now under construction.
Hmm.
So, depending on the wind, they may only be down to one runway for takeoff and landing. And then there's another perpendicular runway. If the wind is just right, they can use the perpendicular runway for landing, but you still have to kind of stagger the airplanes that are taking off and landing. So it does cut
Hmm.
back on the time.
I see. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about style. So you mentioned, so you do wear a uniform, and I know while we were working together, you have like certain jewelry that you wear with your uniform, but you seem to have this fun alter ego when it comes to style. So let's talk a bit about some of your favorite fashion items.
Oh, well, first of all, I like to look feminine. I have short hair, and normally our uniform at work is pants, but I
Hmm.
wear a skirt. And unfortunately, this uniform, we get a new uniform at the end of this month, and they do not offer an option of a skirt or a skirt. So I have to wear pants. And in that case, I wear an open collar shirt. I don't wear the male tie, and I wear pearls. I am a Delta. So I wear
Hmm.
my little pearls and I have my pearl earrings, and I think that gives it a feminine look. But with the new uniform, I will have a female hat. We call it a wave cap, so that'll
Hmm.
give it a little bit of flair. Um,
Mm.
so on my personal time, that's why I like to dress a lot more feminine, because at work I can only wear certain pieces.
Hmm.
I do like to put on dresses and have the feel like every lady likes to feel feminine and
Hmm.
beautiful. Mhm.
Yeah. So we have something in common. One of my favorite fashion items is tulle skirts.
Yeah.
And so when we were working together, I was trying not to like steer you in a direction because I don't want every woman that I work with to feel like, oh, I'm going to put them in a tulle skirt. But that was something that you actually requested.
I liked it. And I like how you put your outfits together with the
Thank
tulle
you.
skirt. Yeah, that's like some extra added flair.
And so I have like 20 something tulle skirts, all lengths and poofiness levels and all that stuff. But on regular days, sometimes I'll just put on like a tulle skirt, maybe not a poofy one, but just I'll put on a tulle skirt with a t-shirt and sneakers and run to the store. And everyone's like, not everyone, but people are like, oh, like, and it's honestly for me, tulle skirts, I have more tulle skirts than I have jeans, and they're easier to wear than jeans. So it's like, it just adds a fun, like you said, feminine element to it. And people love tulle. So I think it's one of those fabrics that lends itself to like fantasy and like a
Yes.
femininity and all that stuff.
And you can dress it up and dress it down. Like you said, you can put sneakers with it, or you can wear heels. Mhm.
Hmm. So have you worn one recently?
Well, it just started getting warm. So I
Okay.
haven't worn one recently, but my favorite is that navy blue one. That's
Okay. Yeah.
the navy blue one, and I have like a peach one, but I like the navy blue one with the blue and white tape top that I have. That-
Oh, okay. Okay.
I like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's my favorite.
Okay. Okay. And you got a number of tulle skirts. So I know that
I
that's
have a
fun for
pink
you.
one that's got like little sparkles in there. Then I have a
Hmm.
brown one, which I did wear in the fall. The brown one, and I put on my off-white sleeveless shirt that had like the cowling that came down. So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I remember those items. Cool.
mhm.
So I'm glad you're getting use out of those things. So when you think about style and authenticity and where you are in this stage of life, how would you say that your style has evolved?
Hmm. In
Mm.
my mind, it's become more mommy-ish.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like I tend like there's some sexy things that I like to wear, but I for everyday wear, I tend to always go for the safe bets. That's
Mhm.
why I feel like I'm whatever feels safe.
Why is that?
I don't know. I don't know. You know what? I think some of it has to do with how I perceive myself and just wanting, like weight wise, like, hey, when I lose this 15 pounds, and I'll be able to wear this and look a certain way, and it maybe for me feel more comfortable.
Okay. But so full transparency, you have actually lost a bit of weight since we started working together. So I know that you had some fitness goals and you look amazing.
Thank you.
Um, let's talk a little bit about what prompted that. So, because this happened like right as our engagement was coming to an end, and I think that's when you really started getting into it. So, how did you get there?
Well, for all the ladies out there, the first thing is I had a breakup. I broke up with my boyfriend. And what better way like to spend your time that you normally spend with the other person is by working out. And really I wanted to work out anyway. And I prior to that, like when we met, my goal was to start losing weight. But
Hmm.
sometimes life gets in the way. Like you're doing other things, you go on other places, or you don't feel like getting up to go to the gym.
Hmm.
My motivation was pretty strong. So I started going back to the gym. I got a personal trainer just to kind of get back into the swing of things. And that started in October. And by February, I had lost 30 pounds.
Wow. So how has that impacted your confidence? And do you think that that has changed the way you think about your clothing in any kind of way?
Well, first of all, I fit into my uniform a lot better. It was getting a little
Nice.
snug.
Okay.
And for me, I'm a little more confident because I can buy items that I would not have worn last year. I could buy items this year that I think for me look better on how I look now or the
Hmm.
size that I am now.
So I don't know what your peers are like in terms of how they dress, but I would imagine that you're one of the more well-dressed pilots, right?
Well, again, there are not many females, right? So compared to the guys, yeah. Um, and because a lot of the people that I work with are males. Like even on my overnights, I like to come down in a dress. Like I
Hmm.
like to look feminine and feel feminine. So
Hmm.
if you want to compare me to how they dress, sure. But my girlfriends, they're, I have to keep up with them. I have a couple that are very good in their styles,
Oh,
and it
because
is
they're
who
deltas, right? Are they deltas?
a mixture of both. But you know what? I got one AKA friend, and I've seen her closet. Like her outfits are awesome, awesome. And
Okay.
Jen, I'm talking about you. I know they'll watch this.
Yay. The more
Wait,
eyes, the
you know
better.
what? And my girlfriend Fran, she's a Delta.
Okay.
Her wardrobe's nice too. But their style is their style.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So how would you describe your personal style?
Huh.
It's funny. I'll give you a chance to think about that
Okay.
because when people ask me that question, I have a hard time defining my personal style as well because I feel like it's not just one thing. I like so many different things, you
Right.
know?
It's kind of like I like what I like. If I'm in the mall, again, like I said, I don't like to shop, but if I'm in the mall and I see something that I like and I try it on and I like it, I'll buy it. Even if I don't
Mhm.
have any place to wear it to, I figure at some point in time, I will. And the reason I do that now is because when I was younger, I would see something, I'm like, oh, I don't have any place to wear it. I don't know when I'm going to wear it. And then I will regret not purchasing it because when
Mhm.
something comes around, I'm like, oh, this outfit would have been great for this particular uh, party or program.
Mhm.
So now I'll figure if I like it, just buy it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, especially like, well, first of all, everything is so casual in our society now. Like people don't like to get dressed up. Even when you go to Broadway plays, people have on jeans and it's like, come on, people, can we step it up just a little bit? And it's
Mhm.
like you can create the occasion. It's like I speak to women all the time, and they're like, "Well, I can't wear such and such," and it's like, why not? Like, why do you have to conform? Yeah, like it's a strategy for me because it's like, okay, there are people, and sometimes I feel like, am I putting too much emphasis on the importance of style? But then I have to quickly remind myself, no, like, for me, the way I show up has opened so many doors for me, and that's actually what propelled me to get into personal styling because I knew how looking good made me feel. And I know that there is a lot of power associated with personal style. And it just, honestly, it pains me that more women don't take advantage of it. It really does. Because you look around sometimes and it feels like people just don't put in the effort or don't really see, the value of personal style. Not everyone, obviously. Oh, speaking of that, did you watch any of the Met Gala? Did you see any of the fashions?
I did not. Well, I did see the fashions after the fact. I
Hmm.
looked at them online.
Did you have any favorites?
Interesting outfits. You know, uh, I can't think of her name right now. I can see her face. She had on the white outfit with the white hat.
Zendaya.
Zendaya, that's it. Her, I was like, I would like that outfit. That was really nice.
I liked it too. It was very classic. Did you know that there was another woman who had on a very similar outfit? That was crazy to me. A white suit with a hat. Even though they
Oh,
were one was Dior and one was another brand, but they were so similar. But Zendaya killed it because first of all, she's super tall and slim. The way it was tailored, like, oh, she is one of my fashion icons for real. Like
it
she
was
looks so good.
beautiful. She looked good. Yes.
Hmm. And there were some other nice things. One of the things that disappointed me was I felt like there was just too much black. I saw a lot of people in
Wasn't
black.
that the theme?
No, it was just black dandyism, not the color black, but the
Yes.
culture black.
But
And,
I thought the culture black, but maybe the black, just the color itself, also symbolized something. Because I felt like there was so much symbolism in a lot of these
mm,
outfits that I was racking my brain trying to figure out. Okay, like what does this mean? Like Will
mm,
Smith's son, he had a something black and wiry like over his face.
I didn't see that.
Like you really had to look, and I'm like, oh, that is it a mask? But I'm sure it would have been nice to get an explanation of some of these outfits.
Yeah. Yeah, I did hear some, chatter about some of the outfits after the fact, but yeah, that's a good point because some of it is kind of out there, and then obviously there are the people who just don't follow the dress code at all, but
And there were some people there who just had on regular suits. You know who I was surprised to see? I can see his face. The guy who's on CNN, Reverend Sharpton. Reverend
Oh,
L. Sharpton. Did you see his
yeah, I
in the
did.
picture? He reminded, and I only saw him in the picture, but it reminded me of a showman, like his outfit, because he had his hat in his hand and he had his hands open.
And then didn't he have like the longer like the white cuffs or something like the white
I
sleeves?
think so. I think so.
Yeah, he
But
looked good.
it just reminded me of a showman when he, yeah. So there were some good. And then, of course, my favorite, I like Lewis Hamilton. I liked his outfit.
Oh, see, you know what? I kind of I shouldn't have even started this conversation because I did see some of the outfits, but I honestly I didn't tune in the way people probably thought that I would because I've been so busy with other things. So I caught, some images here and there. I saw Janelle Monáe, I saw Diana Ross, I saw a bunch of people, but I wasn't really as into it as I probably would have been if I wasn't quite as busy. But I love the pageantry of it all.
Yes.
And I like the fact that it elevated the notion of Black dandyism because I just think that it's something that's probably not widespread. So it
Yeah.
was cool. So let's talk a little bit more about um, your career, being a role model, and what advice you would give to young women who are considering a career in aviation.
Well, first of all, it's a great career. I would, if anyone's interested, I would definitely encourage you to um, join a career in aviation. Doesn't necessarily have to be a pilot. As you mentioned earlier, they talk about it in the news. We need air traffic controllers. I think in my next life, I will come back as an air traffic controller.
Really?
Yeah, I did that course when I was in university at Hampton, and I loved it. But pilots are usually type A personalities. We like everything to be where it's supposed to be, and lined up, and that's what you're doing for these airplanes. You're lining them right up, making sure that
Mhm.
the separation is good. So we have that. We have aircraft maintenance. There's just so many things that you can do in aviation or that are aviation related.
Mhm.
And as far as advice, seek a mentor. When I
Mhm.
started over 30 years ago, there weren't a lot of people that looked like me. And if they look like me, they weren't female, very few numbers. So seek a mentor. There are programs out there that you could join in order to meet up with other people who are trying to get into the field, whether it's becoming a pilot, becoming an air traffic controller, aircraft maintenance. So people are going through the different programs or who may have already gotten to where you want to be, that you can ask questions to, and they can tell you about their journey and maybe even an easier way or path that you can take
Mhm.
that's slightly different from theirs.
So I've always wondered about this. So for women who are in male-dominated fields, do you feel or have you ever felt the pressures to try to not act like a man, but try to adapt some of the ways that are traditionally associated with how pilots behave? Or have you always taken a position, well, you're just going to assert yourself the way you exist today? Like, how do you balance that? Because I know that can probably be a little, I don't know, maybe I'm projecting, but yeah. How do you
Well,
feel about that?
I always feel like I'm going to be me because you can never be one of the boys. I learned that a long time ago. No matter if you do the same thing or how comfortable they are about talking to you about certain things, you are never one of the boys. You're always going to be looked at as female.
Hmm.
And I think people respect you more when you are who you are. And I think that I am a pretty nice person. Once people get to know me, and that's the thing, like a lot of my peers, they don't have friends that are black and female. They
Mm-hmm.
might have black friends, but very few of them have black female friends. So
Hmm.
only thing they know about people that look like me is what they see on TV. And a lot of times we know we are not portrayed in the best light. It's very
Right.
stereotypical. And when you're in the flight deck with someone and you might be in there with them for 3 or 4 days at 6 or 7 hours at a time, eventually you start talking and you get to know the person and realize that you have a lot in common, like your lives pretty much are parallel, especially because you do the same things.
Hmm.
But they also get to kind of know you better, and some of the stereotypes, because we all have stereotypes about people and things, and a lot of those stereotypes fall by the wayside because
Hmm.
then they realize, like, oh, you're a regular person. Yes, I am a regular person.
How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get a lot of times when the guys curse word might slip out and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm all for people being themselves, but I genuinely appreciate that they are apologizing because they have that much respect because I am a woman. I don't ever want to be one of the guys. And when
Hmm.
we're leaving the flight deck and we're walking the hotel room, they stop, let me go first because I am a woman, or they might open the door for me or help me out of the van. Um, you know, I appreciate that because that's how I want to be treated. And outside of those things, they don't really treat me. I don't think I'm treated differently. Um, I guess it's all about the respect that you command and
Hmm.
how you allow people to treat you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You talked about the importance of mentors and surrounding yourself by people who can help educate and uplift you and things like that. And I know that there are. Tell me about the Hampton Six because I did some research on you.
All right. So, for those who don't know, Hampton University is the HBCUs. I attended, graduated from Hampton University with a BS in flight education. That's where I started flying airplanes. There were six of us who all were kind of in school together. And there were two of us. We graduated the same year. I think everyone else might have been a year or so younger. But we went through these years. We all actually went to the same regional carrier, which
Mhm.
was Masaba Airlines, all from one. I always forget about Kyle. There's six of us, all but one. Kyle went to other places and kept getting furloughed a couple of times. So we were like, wherever Kyle's going, we are not going. But we all went to Masaba, and then we ended up at Continental together, which, as you know, merged with United. It's now United. We are all United captains. And on Good Morning America, I think 2021, maybe 2022, we had a feature on there. And what makes it special is that we were each other's kind of like mentors, or we'd be mentees. Like all the information that we received from each other. So someone would
Mm.
go and get a job like at Masaba, and they come back and be like, hey, Masaba's hiring, and here's the interview process. Let me help you with interviewing. Like, let me give you some questions and show you how to interview. And then the other person will kind of put their hand back and then bring someone else up. And that's what we did when we went to the regionals, and then also what we did when we got to the major airlines. So
Mm.
we're all at the majors together. I think they're out of the six, four of us are now line check pilots, and
And
we're
what does that mean?
so I'm a line check pilot on the 737. When a pilot does their initial training or upgrade training, meaning they're going from the right seat to the left, they're becoming a captain, all of
Mm.
that training is done in a simulator. And
Okay.
our training center is located in Denver, Colorado. So you do that, that takes a couple of weeks. You do that training, and then everything you've learned, and that's condensed training because there's a lot of things that you have to do. You're not necessarily sitting down and just doing a flight in its entirety. The first time now that you're doing a flight is when you come on with the line check pilot, and we call it on the line, is when you're on the airplane and you're flying people from point A to point B. So the last part of your training is you take everything you've learned in the training center and now you implement it on the line and in real life.
Mm.
And your line check pilot, we're pretty much instructors. Like, we're going over different scenarios. We're showing them how everything correlates with time and going from point A to B. And they have to have so many hours. And once they get that time requirement, it is up to us whether or not to say they get a line check, and whether or not to say, hey, they're good to go so they can fly with other pilots on the line, or maybe they need to work on this a little bit more. So either go back
Hmm.
to the training center or fly with another line check pilot. So we are kind of like the last stop when a pilot leaves a training center, and they do their training before they're released to fly the line.
Okay. Okay. That's all very interesting. That's a completely
You know,
different
we also
world.
do other stuff. I just thought about it. So every captain, like ever so many years, they have to do line checks. We can do those line checks as well. Yeah, there's this series of things, but mostly I get a lot of new hires and captains. So I was kind of explaining what I do the most.
Hmm. Hmm. So, 5 years from now, where do you see yourself?
Ooh, 5 years from now, I see myself as a wide body captain, either on a 787, 777. I would also like to be a line check pilot on whichever airplane I go to. Um,
So that's a bigger plane.
it's a bigger plane. Yep. I used to fly the 777 and the 787. They mostly international flights. Those are the ones to
Hmm.
Europe, Africa, Asia. Um, definitely be a captain there, and maybe even have a different type of instructor role.
Mm,
I
okay.
love teaching. I love teaching. It not only and I find that it makes me a better pilot because it keeps
Mm,
me in the books. But what I didn't anticipate when I became a line check pilot is how much I would learn from other people. So even though I have 18 years at United, we have people that come with different experience levels. A lot of people come from the military, so they've been flying
mm,
different things in the military. Uh, and sometimes I'm learning from them. Like it might be some type of shortcut with mental math or just a question that they ask. And I'm like, you know what? I never really thought about that. And let's talk about this. So, as pilots or as people in general, we're always learning. And this job
hmm.
enables me to not only um, share with other people about what I know with the company and the policies, but also get an opportunity to learn from them to make myself a better pilot.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. So there's a couple of themes that have emerged during our conversation. You said this pretty early on. You spoke about the fact that as people, we are in many cases the same. In light of the things that are going on in this world, I think it's important to point that out. And everyone who's listening to the sound of our voice, it's like things are kind of wild right now. And I think if we all take a step back and kind of get back to basics and just reorient ourselves and, come back to the fact that, yes, we are all human beings. And I think, as humans, we are hardwired to, be a little apprehensive about people or things that are new or different or just unknown. And I just want to, put something out there and just say that, like, let's try to reconnect with one another. You spoke often about, just relating to people as people. Spending when you spend time with people, you do get to see, some of those connection points and similarities. So I noticed that, and I also another theme emerged. Um, I don't know. You just seem to have this optimism and like zest for life, which I find very refreshing. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, one of the things, and you mentioned it, um, is I'm a firm believer in lead with kindness. Because
Mhm.
at the airport, you run into all types of people. Some people are busy trying to get from point A to point B. Others might be sitting and they're waiting on a delay. But what I find is when you smile at people and you say hello or just give them a smile, it changes their whole attitude because you
Mm,
never know what people are going through. And a lot of times we take it personal when it has nothing to do with us.
that's
So
true.
I figure I try to smile at people as often as I can when I'm going through the airport or, even if they don't smile back, hey, I've done my part because you never know how that's going to impact someone else. And smiling makes you feel good as
It
well.
does. It does. And well, they say it takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile or something like that.
Yes, yes.
So that's very true. Okay. So let's get back to style quickly. If you had to give advice to a young woman and who's trying to, I guess, discover her style or figure out, how she wants to show up in the world, what would you recommend?
One, I have a personal stylist named Lauren. I can give you her information. She can help you much better than I can. And number two, when you find your style, find what makes you happy, what makes you feel good. And don't worry about what other people are going to think about your style. It's all about what you think about your style.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I loved working with you is the fact that you like to take risks. Like you like fun little pieces. We got some really cute things, handbags and jewelry and fun little pieces. So I love that. I love when women are willing to take risks and step outside of your comfort zone. Not to the extent where it doesn't feel like you, but a
Mhm.
lot of times women may want to try something and may feel a little apprehensive or may not want the attention, But I'm of the school of thought where, again, get the attention. Like sometimes you need to bring attention to yourself for promoting your causes or your own agenda. And again, style is such an easy and obvious way to make sure that all eyes are on you. So that's
That's
my little public service announcement.
true. And that was a good one.
Okay. So, final thoughts. Um, is there anything that you would like to share about life, about style, about your career that you think anyone listening to this podcast has to hear before we sign off?
Mm, there's one thing I want to do, and that is to thank you, Lauren, because you open my eyes just with the styles in general of mixing pieces. So
Hmm.
looking at textures and colors, because I am a very monotone person. Like I'm like, if the top is brown, the bottom needs to be brown, and then we have some brown shoes. All right, you're like, no, but you can mix this. This black and white can go with this orange, and I'm like, can it really? You're like, yeah, because it goes in this family. So I appreciate that. um and I still need help in that. I just go with whatever you told me to wear, and I like the fact that you gave me that book.
I
And
was going to ask you if you look at it. So, yeah, the style blueprint for people who don't know. Typically, when I work with clients, every client gets a style blueprint that kind of summarizes the engagement, gives styling ideas. It summarizes, the key things, the key style strategies that we discuss, things like that. And a lot of my clients tell me that they often go back and look at the style blueprint for inspiration and things like that. So,
and
do
then
you go
you
back?
have to think, you'd be like, I'm going to wear this outfit today. That's
Hmm.
what I like about it. Like I'm like, okay, I'm going for this occasion. Let me look in here and see what it is that I would like to wear.
Hmm.
So I
So,
go back and look at it. Yes.
right, right. Are there any pieces that you haven't worn yet that you wanted to wear?
Some of the jean pants, because I need to go get them altered.
Okay.
But the I had to go to training, and of course, when we go to training, we don't wear our uniform. And I got the pants altered, like the crop pants and the different colors, and I was able to wear the shirts, and I had on my little jacket, and I looked smart. So I was really happy about that. But probably it's only a couple of the jeans that I haven't worn.
Okay.
Everything
Okay.
else, everything else I've worn.
Yay. I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, because you got some, like I said, I was so excited. I'm shopping for you because you got some really cool things. So cool. All right. So, Gabrielle, thank you. I appreciate this. Like I said, I was kind of fangirling when I found out who you were and what you did because I'm always impressed by women who are in unconventional fields because I always know that it's an uphill battle often when you're in an unconventional field. If you're, a woman in a predominantly male field, or if you are a black person who's in a predominantly so it can be intimidating, and so I'm always impressed when women step into those types of roles. So, yeah, I was really happy that we got a chance to work together and I got a chance to meet you. Oh, and I do want to say one thing. So, I did try to introduce my daughter to the idea of, just getting to learn about aviation. And I took her to this program and she was not having any of that. So, I was kind of disappointed. I mean, everybody has to, blaze their own trail, but I do believe that it's critical to have exposure. So maybe that's not for her, but maybe it did plant a seed. Maybe it's not something that she's interested in today. One of the good things about the program we went to, it did talk about all of the adjacent roles. You don't have to be a pilot necessarily, but there are so many other, roles, like you said, in aviation that don't involve flying. So maybe a seed was planted that will, bloom at some point in the future. But exposure, I think, is so super important, when we speak about young girls and exposing them to things.
And tell your daughter, and a lot of people don't think about this, is that airlines, we have accountants, we have marketing people, like you name it. We even have nurses and doctors. So
Hmm.
whatever field you're in, the airlines probably has a position for you.
Because it's just like any other business, So, yeah. Okay. So, thank you, Gabrielle. Any final thoughts before we sign off?
No, thank you for having me. This has been fun to talk about the style. And you asked in 5 years, where do I see myself? I can't wait to see what my style is going to be in 5 years. I'm excited.
Yeah, and look, I'm always just a phone call away. So if you need a little
Oh,
style inspiration or some ideas, I'm here. Thank you so much for your time, and yeah, we'll be in touch soon. But thank you.
thank you for having me, Lauren.